Camille Warren had wiped down the same corner table so many times that morning she could have done it blindfolded. The Riverside Diner wasn't fancy, never had been, but the small rituals gave her a sense of control. The way she polished the chrome napkin holders until her reflection looked back. The way she folded napkins into neat triangles as though someone were grading her. The way she swept every crumb before the sun fully cleared the tall buildings outside. 15 years in the same diner meant she'd seen everything. Bank tellers stopping in before the morning rush. Teachers grading papers over cold fries. Construction workers tracking in dust and flirting clumsily. Sleep-deprived mothers begging for a breakfast special and 5 minutes of silence. Camille knew every face, every order, every story behind the tired eyes. But the man at table 7, he was different. He walked in every Tuesday at exactly 8:15 a.m. Not 8:14, not 8:16, always 8:15, the soft bell above the door chiming as if announcing royalty. He wore expensive suits that didn't match the scuffed linoleum floor or the flickering open sign. His shoes were polished to a shine that had no business in a diner where coffee stains were practically a design choice. He always asked for the same thing, black coffee, 1 sugar, and whatever pie you recommend today, Camille. He said her name gently, like it was important, like he was putting something reverent into the air each time he spoke it. And even though her name tag made it easy, something in the warm steadiness of his voice made her think he wasn't reading it anymore. He simply knew. Camille had nicknamed him Mr. Tuesday in her head. He didn't talk much, didn't flirt, didn't linger. But he watched her, or rather, he studied her. Not in a creepy way. Not like the college boys who giggled through their phone screens, or the lonely widowers who mistook kindness for invitation. Mr. Tuesday watched her like he was trying to solve a puzzle, as if somewhere in her small, tired smile lived a memory he was desperate to dust off. And he tipped well. Too well. $20 for a $3.50 coffee. At first she thought it was a mistake. Then she thought it was pity. Now she wondered if there was something else behind those familiar brown eyes, something she couldn't quite name. "Morning, Mom," Zara said one afternoon, sliding into the diner after her nursing classes. The door chimed, and Camille automatically glanced up, habit ruling her movements. Zara's eyes drifted toward table 7. "That man keeps staring." "Like staring. Do you know him?" Camille forced a laugh. "Baby, I barely know half the people I serve. Maybe he just likes the pie." Zara wasn't convinced. "It's like he's trying to remember something." Camille followed her daughter's gaze. Mr. Tuesday's eyes met hers for a brief moment before he looked away, folding his napkin with such deliberate care that the movement itself felt like a sentence unfinished. The next Tuesday, the air felt charged. Camille sensed it the moment he walked in, his shoulders tighter, his steps slower, his expression shadowed by something heavy. She brought his coffee and pie. "Everything okay this morning?" He looked up, directly at her, not through her, not at some imagined past behind her shoulder. "Camille," he said quietly, "can I ask you something?" Her pulse fluttered, quick and nervous. "Of course." He lifted his hand and touched her wrist, softly, barely a brush, but enough to make her still completely. The diner noise faded. The clattering dishes, clinking glasses, the static of the world, all of it blurred into silence. "Do you?" he swallowed. "Do you remember me?" The question made her breath catch. She stared, searching his face for any thread of familiarity. The curve of his smile, the line of his jaw, the warmth in his eyes. Something stirred, but not enough. I?" His smile wavered, sat around the edges. 22 years ago, you worked the night shift here. I was 17. Looked different back then, skinnier, hungrier." His voice dipped, the weight of memory pulling it downward. "I used to come in around 11. I'd order 1 cup of coffee and try to make it last till closing." Camille went still. Night shifts. The hardest, darkest years of her life. When Zara was just a baby and every dollar felt like a lifeline. The customers from those months blurred together. Drunks, insomniacs, kids with nowhere to go. Especially the kids. She remembered giving them scraps, extra cups of water, leftover pie she pretended was too old to serve. "You always gave me extra," he said. "Extra cream. Sugar packets. Sometimes pie. You never made me feel like a charity case." And suddenly the memory struck her, not like lightning, but like a tide rolling back to reveal something long buried. A boy. Thin. Black. Worn-out shoes. A backpack that looked too heavy for his frame. eyes too serious for his age, always reading library books, always counting change. She whispered without thinking, "Jerome." His entire face lit, a smile that erased years. "You do remember." The diner blurred. Camille steadied herself on the edge of the table, emotions sweeping through her like a storm. Jerome, the homeless teen who had fallen through every crack in the system. A boy she'd fed, encouraged, talked to when the world ignored him. How? How did you become? She gestured helplessly at the suit, the polished shoes, the expensive watch that he breathed out, shaky. "You saved my life, Camille. You made me believe I was worth something. Worth more than the world had ever told me." His eyes glistened with emotion he didn't hide. "I kept studying, got a scholarship, built a company, worked until my hands shook and my eyes burned. I made it. I really made it." She stared at him, stunned. He continued, voice barely above a whisper. "I looked for you, Camille. I came back every year on the anniversary of the last night I saw you. October 15th. For 22 years, I sat at this table hoping you'd walk in." Her heart cracked. "I left for 3 years," she whispered. "Zara got sick when she was 7. Needed surgery. I took a cafeteria job at the hospital for the insurance." Jerome's expression collapsed in a quiet, trembling heartbreak. "All those years," he murmured. "You were right here in the city, and I didn't know." Camille sank into the booth, overwhelmed. The weight of forgotten kindness pressed on her chest like a stone. She had helped so many people over the years, too many to remember them all. But this one had grown into a man she might have passed on the street without ever knowing who he was. "Jerome," she whispered, tears rising. "I'm so sorry." He shook his head, gripping her hands. "Don't you dare apologize. You taught me kindness doesn't require remembering. You do it because it's right, because someone needs it." She cried, the kind of deep, quiet crying that comes from the center of the heart. And then, as if the world couldn't shift any further, he said, "There's something else. Something I haven't told you yet." She felt it, felt the gravity of his words, the way his shoulders tightened, the way his breath trembled. "I'm dying, Camille." The words hollowed her chest. 6 months, he said softly. Maybe 8 if the treatment works. Brain cancer. Her entire world sagged inward. The diner seemed to fall away. The chatter, the dishes, the street noise. Everything became muted. She stared at him, unable to speak. "I needed to find you before it was too late," he said. "Before I go." Her tears spilled. "Faster. Jerome." He reached into his jacket. "I've been carrying this for 3 months, he said, placing an envelope on the table. "For when I finally found you." She stared at it as though it might shatter. "It's not charity," he said gently. "It's justice." He took a breath. "Your daughter's nursing school? Her final semester? It's paid for. All of it." Camille covered her mouth, sobbing. "And there's more," he whispered. "A scholarship. In your name. For kids aging out of foster care. Kids like I was." She shook her head, trembling. "Jerome, why?" "Because you gave me dignity," he said simply. "The kind of dignity that echoes for a lifetime." The envelope sat between them. The past, the present, the future converging in a single fragile moment. Camille looked up as the diner door chimed. Zara walked in, smiling. Unaware her life had just changed, Jerome watched her, his eyes soft. "She looks like she's going to change the world," he whispered. Camille nodded. "She will, just like you did." Zara approached the table, beaming. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, Mr. Tuesday." Jerome laughed quietly. Just Jerome. And Camille felt something closing, something opening, something shifting all at once. The single moment of kindness, 22 years old, had circled back to her like a miracle. And this was only the beginning. The Riverside Diner always smelled of coffee, frying butter, and something warm that Camille could never quite name. But the Tuesday after Jerome's revelation, the place felt different. Not because anything had changed physically. The same cracked booths, the same flickering light above table 7, the same stools wobbling like old men. But because Camille had changed, she felt it in her bones. In the way she woke that morning with her heart thudding like she'd already been running. In the way she tied her apron, fingers trembling slightly. In the way she stared at the envelope Jerome had given her, still tucked beneath her pillow like a fragile miracle she was afraid to disturb. The envelope had changed everything. Jerome's truth had changed even more. 6 months. Maybe less. When Camille walked into the diner, Mrs. Chun gave her a searching look. The older woman rarely asked questions. She believed people had a right to keep secrets. But today her sharp eyes softened with concern. "You look tired," Mrs. Chen said. "I'm all right." Camille lied, because how did one explain the storm inside her? The grief that felt premature, yet unbearably heavy? The gratitude so fierce it almost burned? The guilt that she hadn't remembered him, that she hadn't known him even when he'd been sitting right in front of her. Mrs. Chen sighed, the kind of sigh that said she didn't believe a word but respected boundaries. "Tuesday," she murmured. "He'll be here soon." As if summoned, the bell over the door chimed. Camille turned, breath hitching. Jerome stood there, thinner than last week, his suit exchanged for a soft olive sweater and dark slacks. He walked slower, careful, as if each step required thought. But his smile, oh, his smile still lit the dim diner like sunrise. "Good morning, Camille," he said, voice gentle but steady. She forced a smile back. "Morning, Jerome." He took his usual seat at table 7, folding his hands like he was preparing for something sacred. And maybe he was. Every Tuesday now carried weight. Every moment felt borrowed. Camille brought his coffee and pie. Today, peach crumble. "You didn't have to rush," he said softly. "I didn't," she lied. She always rushed now. For him, she would rush across an ocean. They fell into conversation easily, as though the 22 lost years had been nothing more than a brief intermission. But Camille noticed everything. How he brought a hand to his temple nearly every hour, pressing as though trying to hold his brain in place. How he laughed, but slower, as if searching for the right emotional key. How sometimes she'd catch him blinking hard, fighting the fog settling behind his eyes. And yet, he spoke with the clarity of a man who had lived several lifetimes' worth of struggle and triumph. "I used to fall asleep at this table," he said one morning, smiling softly at the memory. "Head on my arms, pretending I was just tired when really I had nowhere to go." Camille swallowed hard. "You should have never had to live like that." "But I did," he said. "And then I didn't. Because one person treated me like I was worth something." She pressed a hand to her chest. "Jerome," he shook his head. "Don't look at me like that. This isn't a tragedy. It's a circle closing. You gave kindness when you had so little to spare. I've built a life because of it. Now I get to give back what you gave me, multiplied." Camille stared at him, awed. "You built more than a life. You built a legacy." He laughed quietly. "A messy one. A determined one. A grateful one. But yes, a legacy." She wanted to ask questions about his company, his success, the years she missed, but every time she glanced at his thinning frame, the questions dissolved. Time felt too precious to waste on anything but the truths that mattered, who he had become and who he still was. Zara joined them nearly every Tuesday now, slipping into the diner with her scrubs smelling faintly of antiseptic and lavender lotion. Her bright presence softened the space around them. "How are you feeling today, Mr. Jerome?" she asked one afternoon, her voice warm with genuine care. He smiled. "Better for seeing the two of you." Zara grinned. "Mom says you're practically family at this point." "Practically," he teased. "I was hoping for officially." Zara laughed, and Camille felt something between pride and relief bloom in her chest. Zara liked Jerome. More importantly, she saw him. And Jerome. He saw her the way he used to see Camille, as a bright spark in a world that often dimmed people too quickly. One Tuesday, after Zara left for class, Jerome looked at Camille with a strange kind of softness, something heavy and almost aching. "She's extraordinary," he murmured. Camille nodded. "She is. She reminds me of you." That struck a chord inside Camille, deep and unexpected. "How?" "You both hold people together," Jerome said simply, "in the small ways that matter most." Camille swallowed hard. "I didn't realize anyone ever noticed." "I noticed." He reached across the table, covering her hand with his. "I noticed everything." Her breath caught at the emotion in his voice. "She's going to change the world," he whispered. "And she got that from her mother." Camille blinked back tears. "You are something else, Jerome." "So are you." As the weeks passed, the diner regulars began to recognize Jerome, not as the mysterious businessman at table 7, but as Camille's friend. Someone important. Someone fragile. Even Mrs. Chen softened toward him. One Thursday, Jerome came in on Thursdays now too, the treatments wearing him down enough that he sought comfort where he could find it. She bustled over with a bowl of chicken soup. "On the house," she said firmly, placing it before him. Jerome smiled. Thank you, Mrs. Chun. Humph, she waved him off. You make Camille smile. That is enough. He ate the soup slowly, gratitude in each spoonful. Camille stood watching from the counter, a warmth settling in her chest. He was becoming part of the diner, a new memory stitched onto every booth and countertop. A presence woven into the fabric of her daily life, not a breath of joy, a shadow of grief. Both at once. One Tuesday in late October, Jerome didn't come in at 8:15. Camille tried to calm herself. He'd probably overslept, or had a treatment, or just needed rest. By 9 o'clock, she was wringing her hands. By 10:30, her chest felt tight. By 11 o'clock, she told Mrs. Chun she needed a break. She stepped outside, the crisp autumn air biting her cheeks. Her fingers trembled as she texted him, Camille, are you okay? No response. She tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Panic crept in, cold and sharp. When she returned inside, Mrs. Chun approached cautiously. He'll come, Camille. But she wasn't sure. Not anymore. She finished her shift with her heart in her throat. Each time the bell chimed, she snapped her head up, hope rising, then falling. The moment her shift ended, she ran home, changed clothes, then paced until she couldn't stand still anymore. Finally, at nearly 6 p.m., the bell on her phone chimed. Her breath caught. A message from Jerome. Jerome, sorry. Treatment hit harder today. I'm all right. Just needed rest. Will I see you tonight? Camille didn't even think. Camille, I'm coming over. Tell me your address. He responded with a smiley face, his version of surrender, and an address in a quiet, beautiful neighborhood she had only ever driven through. 30 minutes later, Camille stood outside a stunning brownstone. Decorative lanterns flanked the door, their warm glow spilling across autumn leaves. The house felt gentle, lived in, not at all like somewhere a billionaire would reside. She knocked. Silence. Then the door opened. Jerome stood there in sweats and a worn t-shirt, looking younger and older all at once. His hair was uncombed, and there were dark circles under his eyes. But when he saw her, he smiled, soft, tired, grateful. You came, he whispered. Of course I came. He stepped aside. Come in. The inside was cozy. Books everywhere, warm wood floors, art that felt personal rather than expensive. On the wall hung a framed photograph of a much younger Jerome, skinny and unsure, holding a diploma. Another showed him shaking hands on a stage. Another, him cutting a ribbon in front of a community center. But one wall stopped Camille cold. It held a single framed image, the Riverside Diner. A quiet night shot, lights glowing inside. Her home, his sanctuary, frozen in time. She turned to him, voice trembling. You kept this. It kept me, he said softly. Her chest ached with something too vast to name. They sat on the couch, a soft blanket draped across Jerome's legs. He leaned back, exhaling a long, shaky breath. I didn't mean to scare you today, he said. You didn't scare me. She lied. He smiled, amused. You're a terrible liar. Well, she shrugged. I've had practice. They both laughed, the sound gentle but full. He sobered after a moment. The treatments are getting harder. Camille looked at him, her heart tightening. You don't have to go through this alone. I know, he whispered. That's why I'm glad I found you. His eyes met hers, earnest and vulnerable. I want you to be part of whatever time I have left, he said. If you'll have me. Her throat tightened painfully. Jerome, she whispered. You already are. He closed his eyes, relief washing over him. Good, he breathed. Because every Tuesday with you is the best part of my week. Camille reached out, taking his hand. And every Tuesday with you, she said softly, has reminded me there's still beauty in the world. Jerome opened his eyes, shining with emotion. He squeezed her hand. Then let's make the next Tuesdays count. And Camille knew, with a clarity deeper than bone, that she would, no matter how many, or how few, remained. Winter crept into the city slowly, as though hesitant to disturb the fragile peace Camille and Jerome had built. Each Tuesday had become a sacred ritual. Coffee, pie, conversation, quiet smiles that said more than words could. But as the weeks passed, Camille noticed a pattern she wished she could ignore. Jerome was thinning, fading, unraveling gently like a thread pulled from an old sweater. He didn't say everything that was happening, but she could see it. The tremor that appeared when he lifted his cup, the slight slur when he was tired. The way he sometimes stopped mid-sentence, staring at the air as though searching for a word he couldn't reach. The headaches he tried to hide with a smile, but he came. Every Tuesday. And Camille was there for every moment. Watching, holding, remembering. The diner had decorated for the holidays. Strings of lights hung haphazardly along the windows. A little tree in the corner twinkled unevenly. The Happy Holidays sign had lost its H, so it read Happy Holidays. And Mrs. Chen refused to fix it because she said it made people laugh out on one cold Tuesday morning. Jerome walked in wearing a thick gray coat that seemed to swallow his shrinking frame. Camille rushed to him immediately. "You're freezing," she said, slipping his coat off, guiding him gently. Jerome smiled weakly. "It's cold outside. You didn't have to walk." "I wanted to." He always insisted on walking, even when she begged him to let her pick him up. "Walking makes me feel normal," he had said once. "And being here makes me feel alive." Today, though, he moved slower. Too slow. Camille seated him at table 7, her heart twisting at the subtle struggle in his breath. She brought his usual, black coffee, 1 sugar, and peach pie because it was his favorite. He lifted the fork with careful intention, as though his muscles had to be reminded of the task. "Camille," he said softly. She sat opposite him immediately. "I'm here." He smiled at that. Warm, grateful. "You always are." Zara entered at noon, still in scrubs. She had started coming by more often, protective in that quiet, genuine way she inherited from Camille. "Mr. Jerome," she said warmly, "you look handsome today." He managed to smile. "And you look like you're saving the world as usual." Zara shook her head, placing a hand over his. "We're trying." "But you." She paused, eyes softening. "You made it possible for so many kids to dream bigger. That's world-changing." Jerome's eyes grew shiny. "I just wanted to give what was given to me." Camille's chest tightened. Her daughter had no idea how deeply those words touched him. After Zara left for class, Jerome leaned into his seat, exhausted but content. "She's incredible." "She is," Camille said. "Thanks to you." "No," he whispered. "Thanks to you. I'm just repaying the debt." Camille shook her head gently. "There was never a debt. You owe me nothing." Jerome stared at her, eyes tender. "Then let me give while I still can." Her throat tightened. "You've given enough." He didn't answer, he didn't have to. December deepened. Snow fell softly, blanketing the sidewalks in fragile quiet. And one Tuesday, Jerome didn't come. Camille tried not to panic. Maybe he was sleeping. Maybe he had a doctor's appointment. Maybe. But when he didn't come the next Tuesday either, Camille's heart cracked open. She contacted him. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. The silence felt like an approaching storm. Finally, on the 3rd Tuesday, she drove to his brownstone, her hands shaking, her breath unsteady. She knocked, and no answer. Knocked again. Still nothing. Her pulse pounded. But as she turned to leave, she heard the lock click. The door opened a crack that a young woman in soft blue scrubs peered out. "Are you Camille?" she asked gently. "Yes," Camille breathed. The woman nodded. "He told us about you. Come in." Camille stepped inside, heart thudding. The house felt warm but heavy, as though holding its breath. The nurse led her upstairs, speaking softly. "He's been declining quickly. He didn't want to worry you." Camille swallowed back tears. "He should have told me. He said he wanted your last memory of him to be good." Camille stopped walking. "I don't care about that. I care about him." The nurse nodded, understanding etched in her eyes. They reached the bedroom. The door was open. Jerome lay in a large bed near the window, the soft winter light falling over his face. He looked fragile, too fragile. His skin pale, his eyes closed, his breath shallow. A thin knit cap covered his head. His hands rested atop the blanket, trembling faintly. Camille's heart shattered. "Jerome," she whispered. His eyelids fluttered. Slowly, painfully, he turned his head, and then he saw her. His lips curved into the smallest, sweetest smile. "You found me," he whispered. Camille rushed to his side, sinking into the chair beside his bed. She took his hand in both of hers, warm tears spilling freely. "Of course, I found you," she said, voice breaking. "Where else would I be?" Jerome exhaled a shaky sigh. "I didn't want you to see me like this. I want every moment," she said fiercely. "Good, bad, all of it. Every Tuesday and every day in between." He closed his eyes, tears slipping quietly down his temples. I'm sorry, he whispered. Don't, she said, brushing his cheek gently. Don't ever apologize. He took a slow breath. I'm glad you're here. She leaned closer. I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere. For the next week, Camille spent every free hour at his side. She read to him, held his hand, made him smile when she could, watched him sleep when he couldn't stay awake long enough to finish a sentence. Zara visited too, sitting quietly at the foot of the bed, sometimes talking about her classes just to fill the silence with something gentle. Jerome listened, even when he couldn't speak. His eyes followed Zara's movements with pride, with love, with the bittersweet ache of someone who wished he'd had more time. Camille stayed past visiting hours. The nurses let her. They knew. Everyone could see that she mattered to him, that he mattered to her. On the final night, snow fell outside, soft and quiet as breath. Jerome's breaths grew lighter, each one a fragile thread. Camille held his hand, tears streaming silently. He opened his eyes one last time, barely. Camille, he whispered. She leaned in close. I'm right here. He swallowed with effort. Thank you. For what? She choked. For seeing me. For believing in me. For everything. She pressed her forehead to his, sobbing softly. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for finding me. He smiled faintly. The ghost of the boy he once was flickering through his features. You made home feel real. Her tears fell onto his cheek. And you made hope feel real, she whispered. His eyes drifted closed. Peaceful. One last breath. One long pause. And then, stillness. Camille held his hand long after the nurses stepped in. They touched her shoulder gently, offering quiet condolences. But she barely heard them. She kissed his forehead, whispering, Goodbye, Jerome. And then, softer, Thank you for letting me be part of your circle. Weeks passed. The diner felt different without him. Table 7 seemed too quiet, too empty, too full of memories. Sometimes Camille found herself placing a cup of black coffee with 1 sugar before realizing the booth was vacant. Mrs. Chen never said anything. She just squeezed Camille's shoulder when she passed. Then one morning, an envelope arrived at the diner. Camille's name handwritten. Her heart ached at the familiar script. Inside was a letter and a folded piece of paper. The letter read, For Camille, thank you for teaching me that home isn't a place. It's the people who see us, truly see us. Keep making people feel at home. With all my gratitude. Jerome. The folded paper was a deed to the diner. He had bought it and left it in her name. Camille pressed a hand to her mouth, trembling. Mrs. Chen stepped beside her, eyes warm with understanding. Well, she said, voice thick. It's about time someone worthy owns this place. Camille cried then. Deep, wrenching sobs of grief and love intertwined. Mrs. Chun wrapped her arms around her, holding her like a daughter. Camille lifted the letter again, reading it through blurred tears. Home isn't a place, it said. It's being seen and valued by another human being. She looked around the diner, her diner now, the place where she'd survived, struggled, grown, the place where she'd unknowingly changed a life, the place where that life had come back to change hers. She smiled softly, wiping her tears. Welcome home, she whispered. To the empty booth. To the memory. To the circle that would never truly close. And then she hung